Hey, self-seeders, welcome back to the podcast where we are always just trying to plant bold ideas and we are trying also to, with the aim of harvesting real growth. Today, we are also diving into something I've been obsessed with since I was a teenager: how to learn better. How to learn better and become better. How to retain memory better. Here's a mind-blowing stat to just kick things off. Your brain forgets about 70% of new information within the first 24 hours unless you take action to lock it in. That's why sometimes even when we pull the all-nighters, it often just leaves us with, well, not so much. But what if you could hack your brain system? What if learning could become faster, deeper, and even more fun? I like when things are fun, easy to do. Yeah. To be honest, when I was back in primary school, I was that kid, the one copying a friend's math trick, spying on others sometimes to just see their study methods. I was always observing, like, why are those guys so good? And I'll just want to see how they study, And sometimes I even pretended to teach concepts I barely understood myself. Why? Well, it was because I learned early on that learning all of this, raw hours of learning don't win only, but strategy does. How you learn, not how long, but how you learn, how you bring new concepts into your head. And today I'm sharing 5 science-backed techniques that transformed how I personally learn, from engineering to fitness to even building a business. These aren't just cool theories. They are habits I use every single day. They are something that I practically do every single day. And so let's get the ball rolling. So the first technique is spaced repetition. This is just like outsmarting the forgetting curve. Think of spaced repetition like watering a plant, just enough for it to grow roots, but not so much of that you actually drown it, Instead of cramming everything at once, what if you just revisit the materials at strategic intervals? Instead of just absorbing everything in one take, what if we were doing like, how we record movies, many takes, pieces? Apps like Anki and Quizlet, they're actually built for this. But here's how you can DIY it, because this podcast is usually practical. I try to make it practical. So let's say you're studying Chinese, right? What if you review the new vocabularies on day 1, day 3, day 7, and so on? Like you learn new vocabularies on day 1, and then you review them on day 3, you review them in day 7, and going on. The important thing here is to just block out 10 minutes in your calendar for review, because as we learned in the previous episode, tiny efforts can compound into something grand, into something big. So 10 minutes of review every day, or some intervals, it can become something big. Yeah, I personally use this to prep for my HSK. HSK is a Chinese certification, kind of like CET, CETL, is it CETL? TOEFL, those kind of exams. So it's a Chinese language certification. I used this method for my HSK certification just to memorize Chinese vocabularies while I was riding the subway, or I had to hit a pause on a song when I heard a word that I had previously learned. Turns out that multitasking can also be a memory superpower, So try this method, and I think maybe some of you use this method in their learning already. And the second technique is active recall. You stop rereading and start remembering. You stop rereading. It's just simple like that. You stop rereading, start remembering things. So usually when you're rereading your notes, it feels productive, isn't it? But it's just like scrolling on Instagram. It feels good, but sometimes your brain is barely working, on Instagram. Yeah, your brain is barely working. So when you enter the active recall, this method forces your brain to pull up information from memory. It is called active recall. So it's like you learn something, and then your brain now fetches for that information from your brain. Right? Your brain fetches that information up. Why do I say your brain is fetching information from your brain, bruh? So here's how to do it. So let's say you are after you're reading a chapter in your subject, in your area, and after reading a chapter, you just close your book and write down everything that you remember, everything that you can recall. Literally, your brain should try to fabricate, just like AI should sometimes try to fabricate from the knowledge that you got. The important thing here is to turn ideas into quiz questions. This is one of the techniques we use to do. Like for us in school, we even created like a friendly competition with friends in this aspect of trying to recall aspects. This, by the way, is middle school. We used to challenge each other, by trying to create the hardest math quizzes we could come up with, just to suppress the other guy. But that means you are trying to recall concepts, and that trying to stamp on each other actually made all of us smarter. And I understood that maybe sometimes rivalry is equal to retention, bro. When you are trying to compete with your rival, sometimes it can bring about retention, that aspect that sometimes you even learn so that you can go and ask each other questions, and then you don't want to be the one looking so dumb in the conversation that you didn't read enough. Yeah. And the third technique is the Feynman technique. Is it the Feynman? Is it the Flyman? No, Feynman. The Feynman technique, which is simply, and this is my favorite because it is just simply teach it to learn it. This is my, when I started, I said I used to even teach concepts that I didn't 100% understand, but that was my way of trying to make it stick in my head. So Richard Feynman, the Nobel Prize, is it Nobel or Nobel? Hey guys, Nobel. The Nobel Prize winning physicist famously said, if you can't explain it simply, then you don't understand it well enough. So if you read a concept, even if it's a complicated concept, but if you cannot make, like, let's say a 10-year-old kid understand that concept, then you haven't really grasped the concept. Yeah. So here's how this method can work. First, you pick a concept. Let's say international trade or whatever it is. Just pick one concept, right? And then you try to teach that concept to a 10-year-old. I would have given an example of trigonometry, but then the 10-year-old. Anyways, yeah, it's like calculating, the hypotenuse of a triangle. If you're able to explain how to calculate the hypotenuse of a triangle to a 10-year-old kid in simple layman terms, then you're able just to explain it to that uncle who's always interrupting you. Always, that uncle. There are always those uncles, type of uncles. Yeah. When you are able to teach these concepts that seem hard, but you're able to teach them to in layman terms, then you begin to notice there are some places where you fumble, right? Those should be your gaps. You have to revisit and refine those places. Whenever you feel like, okay, Pythagoras theorem, how to explain that, and then the way you're explaining, you discover there are some parts that it's not simple enough, or you're not really simplifying them. Then you have to revisit that concept and refine. That's the Feynman technique. Simple as it is. Teach it to learn it, or learn it by teaching. You get it? Back undergrad, back in college, I'd usually break down concepts to friends while working across campus, and mostly was like I was with Edison or Freddie sometimes, yeah. And the simpler I made it, or even when I'm working with Jerry, the simpler I made it to explain a concept, it is the clearer it became for me and for them. The easiest way you are able to explain a concept, then it becomes clear to you and to the person. And the bonus thing that you can get from this is sometimes instant respect from confused classmates, or instant respect from your teammates, or from your the people you're working with, because then you're able to give them teach them new things in a digestible manner, isn't it? The next technique, by the way, is interleaving, where we are just trying to mix it up all in the brain for maximum retention. So most of us study in blocks. This is the usual thing amongst learners. We try to study, let's say, math for 2 hours, and afterwards I will go to history. We used to do this in middle school as well. We used to put blocks of time, yeah? But research shows that switching between topics, which in this context is called interleaving, actually improves understanding and recall. So why is this fact like that? Why does it improve understanding and recall? Because it just forces your brain to adapt and make connections across different subjects, right? So let's say you're studying finance, then you alternate between budgeting, investing, and taxes in one session. In this manner, your brain is trying to interleave between the three aspects of finance, that you're trying to correlate these aspects, and in this way, your brain learns quicker. But my advice here is just to use a 20-minute timer per topic, so that to keep things fresh and focused. I currently use this method like so frequently, especially when I'm juggling content creation, business development, coaching session, and certification courses. Even when and plus my research, my personal research, bro. At first it feels messy, but soon your brain becomes a master DJ. It becomes a master DJ where you begin to mix tracks like a pro. So yeah, that's when you're able to mix intertwined concepts from different areas, then your brain, it learns a new method of learning instead of the regular one, just the straight path, but rather it's able to say, oh, we just learned this concept in life coaching. Let's say we learned about habits. And then you come here in fitness, you're learning again a concept related to micro habits, how to help clients with nutrition or with adoption of exercises. And then now your brain begins to say, oh, this concept intertwines with this in this manner, and yeah, you become a pro at it. The fifth technique is mind mapping. And this is important because you visualize to memorize. When you have a picture in your head, you're able to remember or to understand on how to go about the situation. So you should know that our brains are wired for visuals. Our brains are just are they like computers? Yeah, we would say they're like CPUs. They are wired just for visual, for us to, our brain loves pictures. That's why sometimes pictures are stored more than words. You may forget the words, but you remember the circumstance. Mind mapping becomes a game changer in this aspect. It turns scattered thoughts into a visual landscape that you can actually remember, even after a long time. Because you still remember the picture. You might forget the exact words, but you still remember the context. You get it. And there are several ways to do it. Let's say 3 ways to do it. First, you just start with your main idea. This is the center. Let's say your main idea is entrepreneurship. This is the center of it, of all the mind mapping. And then after having the main, you start with your main idea at the center. Then you branch it out with subtopics, let's say like marketing, funding, product design, sourcing, those kind of aspects that relate to entrepreneurship or relating to your startup operation. And then at the end, you add keywords or icons or colors, anything that it will make it stick. Let's say we know a product design, we might put something like a light bulb or something. And then funding, we might put like a sack of, the sack with money, with a dollar sign on it or whatever money currency that you use. And in marketing, maybe you might put something like a phone, just a mock-up of a phone. You can just draw that, and it doesn't have to be perfect or looking nice, but It is for your brain to recall the picture of, okay, this is how Aussie is, and these are the branches that I have an idea of how Aussie's brand should operate. And it keeps reminding me of how to operate Aussie, because actually when I was launching Aussie outdoor products, I mapped everything from, let's say, sourcing the gear to planning the events, sourcing the gears to planning the events. All of it were like, I tried to put the picture it in my head and everything, because that visual eventually just helped me with clarity. That with clarity, and it helped me to identify some blind spots even before they became bigger setbacks. All right, so now it's your turn. It's time for you to do it. It's time for you to do it. I mean, we try to put this podcast into something practical in it. So since it's for young people, and we are all young people, we're trying to learn. It's your turn to try something. So this week, just pick one technique and test it out. Let's say you teach something using the Feynman method. You teach something to your colleagues, to your friends, an idea. Just simplify it and explain it, like not to a 10-year-old. Or you can also create a mind map of your next goal, of your next idea, and or just maybe review one of your idea every other day. When you go like this, I feel like you begin to learn, to understand which methods suits you best in learning what. And then after you do this, you just DM me on Instagram at Emmanuel E. Saitoti and let me know what you tried, because I also love to hear your wins and your stumbles too. And this is the truth, great learners aren't born. This is what I'm understanding. Great learners aren't born like that. You may be born, yes, with a great IQ and memory retention and all that, but the learning process of life, it is not like there. The skill of learning it is built with curiosity, consistency, and strategy. We may be born with a very good, we are not saying brain, because we are not talking about brain, we're just talking about the learning skill. And with time, with the strategy, with curiosity, you begin to grow, expand on that. So whether you're diving into AI, training for a marathon, or even just raising a toddler, this is parenthood. These tools can just help you to stay ahead of the curve, can help you always to, leapfrog at least. And honestly, for me, this podcast is my own learning playground, because every episode, every message from you, every story, it all adds up to that growing vault of knowledge that we are building together. And I think we should all find methods that can easily help us retain information, new information, greatly. So what we should do is we should keep experimenting, keep asking questions. Not just questions, but better questions. Ask better questions. And above all, keep growing. Have faith that God is helping us in. That's why even God said, hey, hold on into education. He didn't mean literal education of sitting in class, but that aspect of seeking knowledge. We should seek knowledge with all our strength. So let's keep growing. Next week, we might be diving into the top 5 habits of highly productive people, and some of them might surprise you. So you don't want to miss that. You don't want to miss that, right? Till then, just keep seeding your future. And this is Emmanuel signing off and letting you have a good day on this beautiful Tuesday. And may God be with you, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.